Hello, everyone. Welcome to lesson 6.2. We're going to be talking about angle bisectors in triangles today. Notes are going to start on page 357. And as before in lesson 6.1, we are going to be having two lesson goals in front of us to prove theorems and to solve problems about angle bisectors themselves, and to prove theorems and apply those geometric methods to solving design problems using those angle bisectors of triangles. So a reminder of what an angle bisector is. It is going to be a line, a segment, or a ray that divides that angle into two congruent angles, right? Just like a segment bisector bisects the segment into two congruent segments, we're going to divide an angle in the same way. So as before, with perpendicular bisectors, we have an angle bisector theorem and the converse that we're going to be working with. First of all, the regular angle bisector theorem, or theorem 6.4 in your book, says that if a point is on the bisector of an angle, so this point F right here is on ray BF, which bisects this angle DBE, and we know that because we see these arc marks down here in each part of that angle DBE split into two equal pieces, then we know that it is equidistant from the sides of the angle. And in a previous lesson, you may or may not have learned that the distance from a point to a line, remember, is always measured as a perpendicular distance. So if it is equidistant, then that means this is a perpendicular distance from that point to both sides of the angle. And please take note of the study tip that is in the margin here on page 357 in the sidebar. The angle bisector in that figure, notice there's only tick marks on the segment AD and DC is what it is in that diagram. I don't have the example on screen here, but if you're looking in your book, notice it's only tick marks that we see there, not the perpendicular as well. So make sure that you know both conditions have to be met, that it has to be equal distance and that it has to be perpendicular distance. And that's more for where we're headed next, which is our converse. So here we go. In our converse, we are reasoning in the opposite direction. So if we know a point is in the interior of an angle and it starts, the knowledge is that it is equidistant. Remember, both distance and perpendicular to those sides. Then what we can conclude is that it is on the angle bisector of the angle. So these parts right here would be able to be arc marked or compared equally. So in example one, if we use this angle bisector theorem here to find the length of QT, we'll notice that we need to solve for x and substitute that. But let's see what we can do with this theorem. So notice we do see the arc marks that prove that it is an angle bisector that we have going on. And so first of all, we have that our two segments are equal in length. So QT is going to be equal to ST. Once we know that, we can substitute their expressions. So we have 4x plus 8 is set equal to 9x minus 7. Moving some terms around, we get that negative 5x would be equal to negative 15, or x equals 3. And when we substitute that 3 in to find the value of QT, we get 12 plus 8, or 20. Take a pause on the video and see if you can work out a similar problem to find this time the length of SP. Now in example 2, we're going to use the converse of the theorem with our angle bisector. Remember, we have to have both conditions present, both an equal distance, which is what that's marked as, and a perpendicular distance. So now we can use the converse. Let's see how. So we have enough conditions to know that our YW ray bisects the angle. Therefore, the measures of the parts are going to be equal. The parts of the angle bisector would be XYW and ZYW being congruent, and therefore their measures being set equal. And so ZYW is the same as what is marked with 38 degrees. Take a pause on the video and see if you can work out the measure of angle JKL here. Okay, moving on to talk about angle bisectors in a triangle. As before, we have three of those lines or segments that are coming together, and they are concurrent, as we talked about. And this time, their point of concurrency is going to be called the in-center of a triangle. And our in-center theorem here on page 359 is theorem 6.6. The definition of an in-center is that it is a point in the triangle that is equidistant from the sides. Before in lesson 6.1 with perpendicular bisectors, remember we were equidistant from the vertices. This time it's from the sides of the triangle. So remember this center we said was related to a circle, whereas circumcenter is the circle that is around the triangle. Hopefully it makes sense that our in-center is going to be equidistant. So we have the radius is going to be the distance to the sides of a circle inside of a triangle. And the term that we use there, if we were to take each of those points of perpendicular intersection from point P, the in-center, we could make a circle through those 3 points, and that would be called the in circle. Those circle edges are going to be what we call tangent to the sides of the triangle. That means it touches in just one spot as it curves toward the straight side. So again, the in-center is equidistant from the sides of the triangle. And if we were to construct it, the in-center would have a circle inside the triangle. So in the example that you have in your book, that point P is going to be equidistant from points D, E, and F. Therefore, PD is equal to PE and PF. All right, let's see how we can work out a problem with this in-center idea. This point P is the in-center of triangle XYZ, and we are asked to find the measure of angle LZP. Let's trace where that is. Angle LZP is going to be this angle right here. That's my value that I need to find. So if my point P is the in-center, remember that means that all of these that are coming together from the vertices to point P are angle bisectors. And so this YP segment bisects this angle KYJ. ZP bisects angle LZJ. And so the measure of angle LXK is going to be twice what I have labeled here of PXK, which is 24.6. So the top angle of my big triangle XYZ, this measure right here, is our 49.2. In the same manner, we can take our 25.1 value, which is down here, as the measure of PYJ. And so two of those measures of angle PYJ are going to make up this bottom right-hand corner of triangle XYZ. And so the measure of KYJ is going to be twice that, 25.1, or 50.2. And notice I'm underlining those in two different ways. We'll see why as we continue to the rest of the problem. So in triangle XYZ, those corner measures are all going to, of course, add up to 180 degrees. And we just found those total values from doubling our angle bisector amounts. So we will write in our 49.2 and our 50.2 values from the previous slide. So the measure of angle LZJ when I subtract is 80.6. Now that's LZJ, which remember is getting bisected by segment ZP. So two of those measures of LZP, which is what we need to find, is equal to the measure of LZJ. So that means that LZP is half of that measure LZJ. So half of our 80.6 is equal to 40.3. And there's the answer to our problem, because remember, this angle right there was what we were asked at the beginning. Take a pause on the video and see if you can work out with the in center here of point J, the value of JF and the measure of angle JAC.
Okay, everyone, this is the part of the video where you really want to check back on the answers to those checks that were assigned to you as you were watching.
All right, for our first check back on page 358, working with our angle bisector theorem, we do see that we have equal parts to our angle down here at vertex J. And so remember that means that our point S is equidistant from the sides of that angle MJP. And so we can put tick marks on those distances because they're already perpendicular, so that's good. And so we can set up the equation 3x plus 5 equals 6x minus 7, because that's our distances ms and ps, right? So adding some like terms, moving some terms around, we get 12 is equal to 3x, or x equals 4 when we divide. So the value of SP is going to be 6 times 4 minus 7 with our values substituted, which comes out to be 17. Using our converse, we're going to check first of all that we have equal distance and perpendicular distance, and we do. So if we want to know the measure of angle JKL, which is this angle right here, we can assume that our KL is an angle bisector. And so this one is super quick, just like the example that we did. Each part is equal, so 37 degrees. All right, if J is our in center, that means that JD is equal to JE is equal to JF, right? Equal distances, those perpendicular distances to the sides are all the same. So therefore, we can say within the triangle that we need to work through, JAC, which is here that we need to work on, and JF, which is here, Well, if we work in that triangle, we know that the angle measure we need to find is also this angle measure right here, and it's within a right triangle JEA. So let's set up Pythagorean theorem there. JE squared plus the distance we know for AE, or 9.4 squared, is going to equal the distance for JA, or 10.6 squared. Just doing some subtraction. Comes out to be exactly 24. And remember, we're only using the positive square root of 24. Let's approximate that to a tenths place as well. So 4.9. And so if that's my JE, that's 4.9. Remember, we said JE was the same as JF. So that is also 4.9. Now we need to work out some angle measures. So remember that these are all angle bisectors coming together here at point J. And so if we work our way around the triangle, we get 33.9 in both corners here. We get 28.5 in both corners there. And so we have that the measure of angle EAC, first of all, the whole angle EAC, is going to be 180 minus 233.9 parts, and then minus another 28.5 parts to figure out what this third angle is. Third angle of our triangle ABC at the vertex of A comes out to be 55.2. And so our measure of angle JAC, as we know, since it's an angle bisector, is going to be half of that. And so that comes out to be 27.6 degrees. All right. Hopefully you guys were able to work through that problem okay. We will see you in the practice.